Hi, Jyotsna.
You're starting, Karishma. Please start.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Yoga in Canada Summit. This is a really special day because, as you all know, it's International Yoga Day. And I feel like yoga has been the most ubiquitous word that's been used. So many people use yoga in so many different contexts. I think that there's a new laptop that's actually come out called Yoga. And yet so few people actually apply it in daily life. You know, you have yoga pants, you have yoga mats, yoga pillows, but what is yoga breath, right? So we've put together the Great India Festival, and Soulkatha has put together this really beautiful, hand-picked, curated number of speakers who've actually lived a yoga life, who've been practicing for more than 20, 30, 40 years to give you the very best of what it means to have yoga in your life. And I don't mean on the mat. What I'm talking about is yoga in your everyday, in your every breath, a mindfulness that will change your life for the better. And I want you to really tune into what I'm going to say to you now, because I know that, you know, you've woken up early in the morning and you're sparing afternoons doing this. And I want to make it worth your time. For first of all, congratulations for being here. Welcome. I know that sometimes you wonder why you're here and if it's even worth your time. I promise it's going to be worth your time, because the people here are all heart. They want you to be able to get the very best of life. And that's what this is about. TGIF has been around for 10 years. Woohoo! So 10 years of celebrating India, 10 years of bringing the best artisans, bringing culture back home in Canada, and bringing more life and beauty alive to you. And I think that when they started bringing singers, artisans, and people who actually were able to depict the different art forms, yoga wasn't that much of a stretch, because that is one of India's greatest gifts to the world. So, a big shout out to the Great Indian Festival for taking this initiative and bringing yoga to our doorstep, to your doorstep, and actually bridging the gap between cultures through their practices. I love the arts, and I think that there is no other more universal language to connect us and to bind us as human beings. So, how does yoga fit into that, right? I'm the founder of Soulkatha, and my entire endeavor with Soulkatha is to bring humans closer to themselves. So, what TGIF is doing, the Great Indian Festival, is bringing communities together, bringing cultures together, and merging them together. From a yoga point of view, what we try and do is actually bring the human closer to themselves. The more connection that we have to each other and to ourselves, that actually enables community. So it's not that far off, you know, and that's why I think this alignment, this collaboration works so well, because we're in this together to bring you closer to yourself and bring, and through that, you know, have more happy, intimate, loving relationships that actually make you happier every single day. Today is a really, really special day, not just because it's International Yoga Day and it's something that must be celebrated. It's also Desika Sir, as he's very fondly called, it's his birthday. And I'll tell you in a second exactly who he is. I think that the story starts with his father, Krishnamacharya. Krishnamacharya, if you don't know him, is considered the father of modern yoga. So, pretty much any style of yoga that you see, you can trace that root right back to Krishnamacharya, you know, in his very humble origins, spreading light throughout the world. So, when you say Iyengar, you can trace that him back to being a student of Krishnamacharya. When you say Ashtanga Yoga, then you can trace him Patabi Joyce, the founder of Ashtanga Yoga, back to being a student of Krishnamacharya. And Desikachar is Krishnamacharya's son, but also his disciple. And what Desikachar did was bring alive Krishnamacharya's most desired dream, I think, to apply yoga in everyday life. And to enable that to happen, Desikachar started what is called the Krishnamacharya Yoga Mandiram in 1976 to use yoga as a therapeutic tool. I know that for a lot of you who are listening, you're sort of confused by what that means. But for Desikachar, it was very, very simple. He wanted people to have a one-on-one experience with yoga. And so if you visit the Mandiram ever, you will find that you will have one teacher for one student. Many of us, including myself, have had the privilege of being tutored, mentored, taught yoga exactly like that. And that is how we've reaped the benefits of that. I know that the kind of person I am, if someone told me do this and do it only this way, the joy would have been sucked out of me and I would have long left the path of yoga. So everyone who's listening in, I really want you to understand the place we're coming from. We realize as a community that each one of you is individual, unique, and special. And so should your yoga. And that's why we've curated you this beautiful collection of people. I'll start with introducing Mekhala Desikachar. Mekhala, well, we're going down generations, right? So Mekhala is Krishnamacharya's granddaughter, Desikachar sir's daughter, and she's with us now. And along with Jyotsna, who is also Desikachar's student. So the reason that Mekhala and Jyotsna are with us today is because they're going to talk about chanting. They're going to make us do chanting. They're going to chant with us, and they're going to show you how chanting is a therapeutic tool. It is one of the most beautiful and enlivening therapies that are out there, simply because chanting can enliven you and yet calm you at the same time. Does that sound amazing? Because anything else do that at the same time, right? Feeling centered, feeling grounded, and yet at the same time, making you feel more invigorated, like a stronger sense of chi is actually entering you. I'm going to just come back to Mekhala and Jyotsna. I'm going to go through the entire rundown of the morning, and then we'll come back to lighting the lamp, and we'll come back to actually hearing their beautiful voices. I know you can't wait, but let me just run you through quickly of what the day will bring. After that, we have Saraswathi Vasudevan, who's also a student of Desikachar. She's going to talk to us about natural mind versus yoga mind. I should actually say yoga mind versus natural mind, because yoga mind is the more preferred state. It's the mind that we all aspire and hope to be, because it's a greater sense of awareness. But do you and I even know, right, in this state, what the difference is and what tools and techniques we can do to get there? Saras, as we very fondly call her, is going to lead us through that. After which, we're going to be joined by Raghu. Again, I know that this is feeling like everyone knows everyone, but there is a reason for that. Raghu and Saras and Jyotsna and Mekhala all belong to sort of the same yoga family, where Raghu's actually learned directly from Krishnamacharya, and he and Desikachar are colleagues, friends, and he has worked with people for the last 40 years to bring yoga closer into their hearts and homes. The way that they do that is through the Yoga Sutra. So Raghu's actually going to run us through this ancient, beautiful text, 2000 years old text, Yoga Sutra, and see how we can apply it in our daily lives. That is just the morning for you. We have so much more coming up in the evening, from chair yoga to yoga nidra to heartfulness meditation to yogic parenting. And finally, we're going to end off in a really, really silent, beautiful, harmonious note. The reason I'm running you through this and giving you all the context of who belongs where is because when I started curating, and started saying who would serve you the best, right? These were the names that popped up. These are my teachers, they are my friends, and they were the names that popped up because I was like, they will have the greatest impact for you. I know that you have exposure to lots of different yoga and lots of different ways of being taught that. But I really think that we've cherry picked the very best for you to bring you what will resonate. To run you through the evening session, first we'll start off a bit of chair yoga, which Shanna Hughes, this beautiful soul who's actually grown up in the Himalayas and then moved back to America, will show you why yoga in a chair works. Not all yoga has to be literally on a mat. We keep emphasizing this. Find your own individual space, find the space that works for you. And this is what this entire immersive experience is about: yoga to suit you, your needs, just the way you are, and accept yourself just the way you are. So, your yoga, your asana practice, your mindfulness, your relationships should reflect that. After which, we have Vishwa, who will come on for a 1 hour session on heartfulness meditation. He's actually worked in Canada for many years, teaching people simple 2 minute to 10 minute practices that actually help with anxiety, depression, and open up the heart space to make us live life in a more larger context. After which, you have me, yes, talking about yoga parenting, why the principles, philosophy of yoga work in parenting, and how to take that mindfulness to your children. So we break this generational conditioning of passing down the patterns of samskara that we have generation to generation without any awareness. Bringing your children into the space of yoga parenting will literally have this boom effect of bringing a sense of consciousness to your children. And then we'll end with Yoga Nidra. We're actually going to end on a completely silent note. Stephanie has been doing this for the last 21 years. She's dedicated 21 years of her life to the subconscious releasing of our minds through Yoga Nidra. So, I just listening to this, I hope that you know what how yoga can be so different, how yoga doesn't have to be an on the mat, oh, let me wear on these pants and and let me do that asana and then forget about it for the rest of the day. Just listening to this, the people that we're talking about for you, I hope you really feel that immersive experience in understanding, in joining us in this day where you can get exposed to all the different styles, forms of yoga. Of course, there are so many more, and I am not going to spoil a lot of the surprises for you now, but this is what we have in store for you today. We've done this with a lot of love, and I hope you guys stick around because there's a lot of little tips that we're going to share. Yes, one thing I forgot to mention is that every session will have a practical element to it. You will have direct access to the speakers, to the panelists, and you can ask questions and you can try everything that they do, because yoga is about practice. I can talk to you till the cows come home and nothing's going to change, but they will chant for you and that will change everything. So I'm just going to quickly introduce Mekhala. Mekhala has been introduced to yoga possibly from the womb, and and she has lived that life. She teaches in San Francisco, and she's used chanting and all the different therapeutic aspects of yoga to improve people's lives. The impact of her father's uh, work on her life, I think, has been so great that it's compelled her to come here, because today is also his birthday. So we're also celebrating his life. We're honoring his life in this space today because he has given so much to so many people across the world, not wanting anything else but, for people to have a better life, for people to live more mindfully and to feel the happiness of yoga inside of them. And I think that Mekhala for us is resonant in that spirit of Desikachar sir. And the way I will introduce Mekhala to you is, I told Mekhala this when I first spoke to her. I actually listened to every single song and chant of Mekhala's, because the first time I heard her chant, I felt this connection. I was like, oh my God. And I went and I bought every single CD of hers that I could ever. And that's how chanting became something that I wanted to do. And it was this soul connection that I had with this person I've never met. And here, 15 years later, I'm speaking to Mekhala and I'm feeling so honored that she's here, because she's actually made chanting accessible to people like me. Um, Jyotsna is here completely by default because I asked my mother, I said, Amma, whose voice do you really resonate with, when you attend these chanting classes? And Amma said, oh my God, if you could get Jyotsna, that would be amazing. And 2 days later, she ended up having a chat with Jyotsna, and I asked Jyotsna, would you please chant for us? And she's very willingly obliged. Yeah, thank you. She has worked with Desikachar sir for almost 30 years. She holds him in the highest regard, and she's made sure that Mekhala is here to share all these thoughts. So, Mekhala, uh, if you could do us the honor, speaking of all the, everything that we've done so far, and how, with the intention that is so pure, to give to everyone that same light that that you light with your lamp, sorry, to everyone, that, that light of yoga stays alive in everyone.
Sure. Can you see the lamp?
Yes.
योगेन चित्तस्य पदेन वाचां मलं शरीरस्य च वैद्यकेन योपाकरोत्तं प्रवरं मुनीनां पतञ्जलिं प्राञ्जलिरानतोऽस्मि। आबाहुपुरुषाकारं शङ्खचक्रासिधारिणं सहस्रशिरसं श्वेतं प्रणमामि पतञ्जलिं। श्रीमते अनन्ताय नागराजाय नमो नमः।
सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
That was beautiful. Thank you. If you'd like to chant a little more, we'd be very happy to listen.
All right, we'll do a small blessing chant to all of the people that are presented here for a healthy and long life. Om Ayurdhehi. Om Pranandhehi. Om Apanandhehi. Om Vyanandhehi. Om Chakshurdhehi. Om Shrotrandhehi. Om Manodhehi. Om Vachandhehi. Om Atmanandhehi. Om Om Mandhehi. Om Maithehi.
Thank you so much. For those of you just joining us, we are in the Yoga in Canada Summit, brought to you by the Great India Festival and Soulkatha, to celebrate life, to celebrate yoga through awareness, through mindfulness, to tell you all that yoga is not just about asana. It is about so much more. It's got so many tools that are unique to you, and each individual is as unique as their thumbprint, and so should their yoga, right? I think that this is something that Desikachar always said, that make the yoga unique to the individual. And we bring you this gift on International Yoga Day and also Desikachar's birthday. Joining us are Mekhala, his daughter, and Jyotsna, his student. And both of them are here bringing you the gifts, really, of chanting. Because I know that a lot of people don't associate chanting as a therapeutic tool or even yoga. And I think that's something that both Mekhala and Jyotsna were very clear about, is that there is no actual religion in yoga and there is no religion in chanting. This is something that I resonate with a lot. And I think that you do too. The ancient Sanskrit texts are so deep in their wisdom, in every single letter that they have put together, that they've strung together, that it's the rhythm and the pattern of how they have formed these alphabets that bring along the therapeutic effects. So religion really doesn't feature in yoga. If we all have a breath, that means we can all do yoga. So where does religion get into it? Where is the question of nothing but this universal existence of all of us celebrating life, celebrating song and chanting the way that we were designed to, because we just have an open mind and nothing else. So we're going to start in about 5 minutes. The actual conversations that we're going to have with Mekhala and Jyotsna. We're waiting for others to join in, to come together in a space where you're open, in a space where chanting is seen for what it is. I know that for some of you who are joining us, this might seem weird, but we're going to be doing so many different things that you probably don't associate with yoga. And we did that on purpose. This is not a mainstream event. This is an event that has been handpicked to show you that people have been spending decades, lifelong service of yoga, in particular therapies of yoga, whether it's visualization, whether it's deep subconscious practices, whether it's understanding the nature of the mind. The yoga um, community is sort of filled with people who think of this as a very monoculture, mono activity thing. And we're here to shatter the myths just a little bit. We want to shake things out just a little bit and say, hey, you know what? There is more to yoga. And we want you to experience it. We want you to apply it in your life. We want you to talk to your friends and family about that. In fact, it's not so great to look at the phone now, but after this, after this is all over, send a message to people to even join the evening session if they like, because I think they will resonate with what's coming. We're also going to have recorded, we're going to record all of this so you can listen to this again. You can also reach out to Mekhala and Jyotsna later if you find that chanting is your thing. Because I know that some people are like, oh, yoga is not for me, but you know what? Maybe chanting is. So feel free to reach out to them. Feel free to now start getting comfortable, get into a state of mindfulness, to really listen to their stories, to really understand why we're doing what we're doing and how chanting can impact your life. And this is not that sort of space where we listen to what's there, we walk out of the room and it's all empty. You know, I really hope that you try and apply this into your everyday life. You try and take something from here. You listen to the recording again and see how it benefits you and other people, and how you can make yourself feel better. Chanting actually helps with anxiety. I know the world is going through a lot of anxiety, a lot of panic in these days. And chanting is one of the foremost tools that people use for therapeutic yoga to help reduce anxiety. Chanting helps with depression. Chanting helps with mental health issues. Whether you have children who have mental health issues or adults, playing a simple tape will make a huge difference. Just the tape. But as they say, even if you're the worst singer in the world, a mother's lullaby is better than any tape. So even if you're the worst singer for yourself, when you sing for yourself and you find your voice and you find your resonance and you listen to yourself with a lot of kindness and empathy, things start to change. Things start to move in very, very subtle and beautiful ways. So everyone who's joining us, welcome. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you for being here. We appreciate you joining us at, from all over the world at ridiculous hours. I think for Mekhala, it's like 3 o'clock in the morning. We're so very grateful to her for being here, because Jyotsna and her wanted to be with each other and celebrate Desikachar's birthday, honor yoga, and give you the best that they both have to offer. And, she's left her two children lying in bed and she's here to, to honor this. To all of you who are joining us at 6 o'clock in the morning on a Monday, I know I know that this is tough. I know that this is an effort. And I congratulate you on taking the time of being here. Everyone in India and in between the states and all the different oceans, you are awesome. You've taken that time for mindfulness. You've taken that time for self-development. You've taken that time to make your life better. And someone who's knows this, I can tell you that's all that matters. One little positive baby step, one little positive little opening every single day towards the right positive direction, that all that matters. So congratulate yourself, give yourself a nice tap in the back. I think Mekhala, you can give yourself a tap in the back as well. For being here, for joining us, for taking the time and spending this time to get closer to yourself and to bridge the gaps across the world, because I know that a lot of Canadians and others are also here. And this doesn't have to do with race or color or religion. This has to do with mindfulness. This has to do with celebrating yoga in its truest, most original form, which is almost a space of nothingness where everything comes together, where we are connected deeply to our innermost Atman, to the Brahman. And these are the concepts that we want to explore throughout the day. This universal consciousness that we are all bound by, this universal love that exists within each one of us and we can use to connect to each other. So we have Mekhala and Jyotsna patiently waiting for all of you to come in and settle in, feel your feet on the ground if you can, relax your shoulders. You've got nowhere to go, nothing to do for the next 45 minutes and hopefully the rest of the morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you are at in the world. And let's take some time just talking now. Mekhala, I'm going to start with asking you a question. When did you start chanting?
When did I start chanting?
Yes.
The earliest memory I have of chanting is when my father was putting me to sleep on his lap. So I remember that I was small enough to fit in his lap. So I think I must have been 2 or 3. And he used to put me to sleep chanting. So that was my first memory of listening to chanting. So I think I was exposed to it at the time. And I'm sure my mother was also chanting when she was carrying me. So chanting was there in my household all the time. Either Appa was chanting or Amma was chanting or he was teaching. So it was always there. But I would say that when I was a little older, I think I started learning chanting from at the Krishnamacharya Yoga Mandiram from Mrs. Sangeeta Pravakaran. So she was probably the one who started teaching. We had a children's class for yoga, and I think I just started learning from there. So that was I think, the first step. But I think I was exposed to it already. And many of the chants that I know, actually, I tell my children to many of the chants that I know, actually, I learned it subconsciously. Nobody just sat there and, so many of the chants I was familiar with when somebody was teaching me, I was so familiar with it because I've heard it so many times. So I think it was there all the time. So I just don't know if I can pinpoint to when I actually started it. So that would be a hard question to answer. It was always there.
That's so beautiful because you grew up in the house which is supposed to be the home of the modern father of yoga. And everyone thinks yoga is asana and on the mat. And here you are surrounded by, the rhythm of chanting. And
Yes.
you that immersive experience of chanting. And I think that is the most resonant thing because to change people's perception and about yoga, right? Because like, oh, I grew up in my father's lap with chanting, and that followed me throughout my life, and I, did the same thing for my children, right? That is so beautiful.
I should say I was fortunate. That's it.
And we're fortunate to have
Oh, thank you.
you. Yeah. What attracts you to chanting? Hi, Jyotsna, can you hear me?
Sorry, was that question for me? I'm sorry, Karishma.
No, that's fine. What
What
attracts?
attracts me to chanting? Very simple. I think the voice of my teacher, because for me, chanting is completely resonant with my teacher's voice. I started chanting with R. Sriram, who was, of course, Desikachar sir's student as well. And then, of course, I learned with Desikachar for many years. So every time I chant, I think why I go back is because it resonates with the voice of Desikachar and Sriram as much. And in that space, I travel to this space of great learning, intensity of learning. There is also an association of an intensity of conviction that comes back with that voice, with the sound of that voice, an intensity of conviction in what we're doing. And beyond all that, when I chant and I go back to those voices, the voice of Deshkachar, it is a space of great warmth. So, in some ways, it is for me that connect that I go back to chanting for. It's very simple. It's just to go back to that space of learning, the space of conviction, and the space of great warmth that is within me. Because that's what I hear every time I chant, and that's the only reason I keep chanting.
That's beautiful. So what I hear is actually it evokes sensations within you of safety, of love, of being closer. Can you hear me all right?
Well, a little off and on. Yes, go ahead.
So I'm saying for what I hear, it this brings up certain sensations inside of you of well-being, of safety, of love, and you keep going back for those positive sensations again and again. And it's so interesting to me that you've been chanting for nearly 40 years of your life, right, Jyotsna?
No, no, not really. I started chanting only when I was about, yeah, almost. That's right. I was about to say when I was about 15, but that does make it about 40 years. Yes, correct.
I'm glad I got that right without getting it right.
Yes, almost. Yeah.
Years. So, and you're saying you constantly use the word learning, right? So we're still learning at every step of the way. Even 40 years later, it's a space of learning, which brings me to ask you both, like, why chant? Why should people chant?
Yeah, so I'll answer it, and then if Jyotsna auntie wants to. I met Jyotsna auntie when I was very young, so I just refer to her as auntie. She's I should supposedly call her akka, but it's just that the auntie is stuck there. So, so why should people chant? With since I have a background in science and physics, I would like to look at it in a scientific way as much as possible. So what I would say is, start with is this. If you want to unravel the mysteries of the universe, you have to think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibrations. This is not something that I'm saying, but this is a famous quote by one of the famous scientists, Nikola Tesla. So he has said this, and I'm inspired by these people. So this thing resonated with me, and I wanted to bring a connection with that here. So we are all made up of atoms, and atoms are constantly vibrating. And we are surrounded by things which are also vibrating. Everything at the cellular level is vibrating at a certain frequency. And whenever there is a disorder or suffering, this normal vibration is disturbed. And it's this disturbance that causes us what we call as dukkham, or an uncomfortable space in us. It could be physical, emotional, spiritual, anyway. And chanting is a structured sound wave, like, it has been researched upon for many years to come. So it's like, you can call it like an orderly set of vibrations, because it's structured in a certain way for a certain reason to bring about a certain effect. And the use of Sanskrit language complements or goes along with this very well, because the sound and the phonetics in Sanskrit language brings in a certain energy with it. When we recite the chanting, you can see that there is a certain energy, positive energy, that comes with the use of the language. So this energy, along with this orderly vibration, tries to put this disorderliness in us to balance. So, and once this kind of, it's not that it's going to happen immediately, but there is some balance that is being brought in. And once this balance is brought in, then there is a sense of well-being or a positiveness that automatically happens within us. So it's more, so this is how I feel that chanting helps people. And it's the effect of the sound. So even if somebody doesn't know the meaning of it, it's the vibration. So you can still have the effect of the vibration, and that is going to help you. And I feel that would be a good reason why someone can chant. But I will also tell you this: everything for now cannot be explained scientifically. I don't think we have enough tools to understand the depth or the possibilities of chanting. So the healing effects of chant, or I would say the benefits of chanting, are yet to be fully explored, because I think we don't have the tools for it yet. Similar to how when yoga was, since this is the International Yoga Day, I would also like to bring a connection so people can, relate to what I'm trying to say. When yoga was first, I would say post-independence, my amma used to say, people used to make fun of her. What, your husband is a yoga teacher? How did you marry him? Something like that. So they were like, it was not something that people were actually feeling positive about or good about. The benefits of yoga was not fully up there. And people were just didn't take it seriously. But now look at it. Now, it is just the complete opposite. And people are now full-time yoga profession. Their profession is to be a yoga teacher. And now effects of yoga, both at the subtle level and the physical level, are now being able to be shown scientifically because the tools are now coming, out there. So similar to that, I think chanting is just now gaining the momentum, and I think we will have to wait. Hopefully, in my lifetime, we should be having more tools. I mean, I wouldn't say people are not doing it. A lot of research out there that are going on to prove this, because the effect of chanting is not just at a physical level. It is more of an experiential thing, and more at a subtle level, what we call as the, in the yoga terminology, prana level. So it's like the more subtle aspect of it. So I think that would be a little difficult to measure, and I think we will have to wait to fully explore its potential. And for now, I would just say whatever I just said would be a good reason why somebody can benefit from it. Auntie, would you like to add something?
I think it's beautiful to listen to that perspective, Mekhala. It's a wonderful perspective of science, which your father also strongly believed in, the mind having a very scientific approach to these things. The only other space that I'm also thinking of, which actually is very much what you were speaking about, is for me, it would be that to bring about well-being or wellness, like you said, and that can also be at this other level of a bhavana, what we call a bhavana. Because while a lot of our chants, the meaning of these chants could be quite esoteric, and many of us may not be aware of the word for word meanings or the inner meanings of them. But if we have a teacher who is well versed in this area, the focus of a chant is understood, and then that becomes a focus for a mind that needs it. Like, for example, a mind that is disturbed and perhaps will find comfort in nature. I know Desikachar sir would give them chants based on the sun or on the moon. There would be chants based on water. And therefore, that mind connects to something that is beautiful to it and then expands into that space of comfort or beauty. So the bhavana of that chant, whether they know the meaning of those words, it didn't matter. But the teacher would explain that this is about, this water, or this is about air, or this is about the sun, and the sun gives us so much strength, and the sun brings light into our day. When Desikachar sir tells you that, you're automatically straightening up and feeling good about the sun, and then you chant to the sun and you feel well. I think feeling well was very important. So the bhavana was very important. And for some people, it may be a deity, somebody who has a strong belief in Shiva or Vishnu or Lakshmi, then he would pick out a chant based on that. And they would feel very protected because they have a faith in that particular deity. So this was another very beautiful aspect, I thought, that was brought about by chanting. And of course, like Mekhala said, the area of breath or prana, even at a very physical level. When you chant, the structure of a chant is also designed in a manner where you have the notes, that the upper and the lower note, the middle note, and how it is structured will actually impact the breath of the person who's chanting. Also, the use within a chant, the words that may have the mahapranams with the kha, pa, tha, dha, lots of those, or the softer ones. You have the softer yopam, pushpam, veda, pushpavan, prajavan. It's the softer ones. Depending on that, your breath is impacted. So, but for all this, I think the teacher needs to know what to give you towards bringing about the sense of well-being. Do the energies need to be awakened? Then maybe some chants with Mahaprana with a certain structure of notes, or a quietening, then a certain structure of notes. So these are also, I think, very beneficial. Even the physical structure of a chanting passage becomes very beneficial in the hands of the right teacher, of course.
Yes.
That was amazing. I think we went through the science and the energetic vibrations and the entire and the uniqueness of each chant being threaded together. And I think that for people who are listening, when you were talking about that, Mekhala, when you said quoted Nikola Tesla, I'm like, yes, like Tesla's talking about energy, yoga talks about energy, and science is yet to catch up with yoga. Science is playing a catch up game, and it's we're feeling validated by knowing what we know and saying, okay, yes, now science is catching up to it. But also, I think there's a sense to everyone who's listening saying, maybe science will never catch up, and maybe it's the experience that you have to trust when you chant, right? It's
Yes, possible.
because why wait 20 years to do something because, oh, science validates that? Why don't you experience it and then see? Like, it's like saying, okay, if I give you, a bitter gourd, if you want to taste it and see, will it really be bitter? We don't need the tools for science to come and check whether, oh, this is the bitter parameter on a bitter gourd, or this is the taste of an ice cream. Maybe we can just test it out. So for everyone, I'd like you to, be brave, dip into those waters. And I think the question that one thing that's really resonant is that, oh my God, I can use this. I am feeling dukkham. I'm feeling sad. I have a conflict within myself. I chant something and I can feel better. It's like I'm driving along smoothly and suddenly a pothole comes, goes bloop, right? And unless the rest of the road is smooth, which the chant can do for you, right? We'll continue to, stay in that pothole vibration. So, if you want to get your car back on, put on a chant. But then what chant is good? Not everyone has access to great teachers. Not everyone has the luxury of being in touch with one teacher, right? So is it really healing? How does someone find the answer? How does someone find the right chant to suit them? I think that those are the questions that people must be thinking. They're like, oh, you had a teacher that was amazing. You're lucky. What about us?
Both yoga and chanting are come under the Guru Shishya Parampara. It is very important to have a teacher who can teach you this. Yes, I understand that not many people are fortunate enough like me and Jyotsna Aunty to have, find an amazing teacher. But if you ask me, what is the right way to learn? A teacher is very important, or a guide is very important. I don't know if you can bypass that. I'm not sure, but that shouldn't discourage somebody from learning. The reason why I'm saying a guide is very important is that like I said, the energy and the vibration of the chanting is so important, and that comes with the right pronunciation and the way the rhythm and everything is structured in the Vedic chanting. So when the chanting is not done correctly, the way it is supposed to be done, it may not bring in the benefits that it has to bring. Or sometimes it may even have a negative effect. So, for example, certain chants are supposed, I'm just giving an example that just comes right out of my mind. So there is a chant called Rudram, and that has a very high energy in it. So probably somebody who chants it and has high energy, but that should not supposed to, they are not supposed to get that, high energy. It's not good for them. So, there are things like this. And so a guide I would definitely recommend a guide, even if not a teacher, a guide. And I feel that if you are sincerely looking for something, you will get it. So if somebody is sincerely looking for a teacher and they put in all their efforts to it, I'm sure they will find teachers. And I just want to bring a small background to this just to help you. So there was, when my grandfather, Sri T. Krishnamacharya, so when he was teaching my father, there was a time when the interest in Vedic chanting was declining. And And for some reason, we don't know, unknown reason, chanting was restricted to only a certain people, and women were not taught chanting. Uh, I think it was just some rules that just came in between, because there are a lot of references in the Ramayana that Kaushalya Mata was chanting Purusha Suktam and all that. So I think this rule was somewhere in between that was just put in. So it just happened to be that way. So my grandfather felt what he called as it. This is an apat kala, in the sense this tradition is losing. A lot of people who are uh, learning this or teaching this is declining, and we have to do something about this. So he, being a very conservative person, uh, he said, I'm going to open the doors of chanting to women. So he just started, this was against so many of the other people there, conservative people there. At that time, there were still people who were, acharyas who were still there, who were not happy with his decision. But he went ahead and, started teaching my mother and other senior teachers at the KYM, chanting. And that's how he opened the doors to women chanting. And I'll tell you, there are a lot of women who are chanting today and who are teachers. And if somebody who is genuinely interested in chanting, and I feel they will find a teacher. And finding the right teacher who knows something about it is very important, because a wrong practice may give the wrong effect, and they may lose the confidence in the chanting. And then they think this chanting has done this to me, when actually because we have not done the right chanting, or we are not pronouncing things in the right way, or chanting it in the right way. So I think, by all means, please, somebody who wants to learn chanting, please try to find a teacher. If somebody is not able to find a teacher, then I think guidance in some form would definitely be needed for a start. This would be my opinion. And anything, if Jyotsna would like to add something, I would. She's more experienced than me, so.
Not at all. I think you've said that very beautifully, because there are certain things we don't know shortcuts to this path, because we're looking at a sense of wellness, creating a sense of well-being, healing, health, and there are no shortcuts there. I think a teacher, like Mekhala said, at least a guide who knows how to guide you. I don't think I would also say there is any other way, really.
So I think for everyone who's listening, who's tuning in, the message is loud and clear. If you intend for a teacher to appear, the teacher shall manifest for you. There is no shortcut to this. Find the right way, find the way that works for you. But if you feel like chanting is something for you, try and do it with a teacher, with someone who has the knowledge to do that. I'm just going to end with one last question before we actually get into the aspect of where you interact with the attendants and you chant with them. In my own experience with chanting, and this is why I'm such a huge proponent of it, I actually used to work in a school for mentally challenged children. And one of the most beautiful experiences I had is this class full of 30 kids ranging from Down syndrome to autism spectrum to you name it, like MS, to all the neurological things, and simply chanting to them. And this is what you're saying. We don't understand the words sometimes. We don't know what's going on. And simply, just humming to them would get them in their own way, because you can't tell these children what to do, because they all are with different rhythms and different patterns. They would all lie down over a period of half an hour and tune in and listen. And the teacher who's been working there for 30 years told me he's never seen this happen anywhere else and at any other time in life, because he says that these children are ranging from hyper to very, very depressed to, so to get everyone in the same rhythm and vibration and the energy you were speaking about, and then for them to feel calmer and yet listen actively, is so beautiful. So I understand for myself, I've experienced the power of chanting. And I want you to share any such a story that, that maybe with you, someone you work with, or something in your own life, that where chanting has had a therapeutic effect, and why it is so very important to sort of open up that door for ourselves.
I think Jyotsna auntie will answer this. She's the right person.
No, no. In fact, I'm just going to take from where you left off, Karishma, because as I was listening to you, perhaps the most beautiful experience that I have been part of observing is also with special children. Many, many decades ago, Desikachar sir had initiated this whole process of working with special children, children with special needs, with chanting, with asana practice. Also, we did some artwork and dancing. But so, in the space of chanting, it was very interesting because, as you said very clearly, the one way that would bring the whole space together was through chanting. There is this idea, I'm sure Mekhala remembers her father saying that what goes through the ear goes directly to the heart. There is no processing. So when there is something that goes in, like you said, the vibrations that go in through the ears goes into the heart, and everyone just comes together. There is nothing else there is no mental processes that are are confusing the space. So first of all, they would all come together. And then over a period of time, Sriram used to work with them a lot with their chanting, and I was more an observer, but I would be there and watching all of them. Over a period of time, I think it's also, first of all, the breath improved because the sound that was being created, it was not necessarily articulated. Though Sriram would pick passages and Desikachar sir would choose passages that are very appropriate for them to expend their breath, to extend their breath, therefore to inhale better. So over a period of time, their breathing became far better because of the breath automatically has a way of working with posture. The better the breath, the better the posture. So the posture also was a lot better. And they used some chanting in an asana practice. For example, during an exhalation, chants were used. So automatically the process, the body became more supple, the body work became better. More interestingly, when they started articulating, I think all the organs of articulation came alive, which was a difficulty for many of these children. Articulation was a difficulty. So all the organs, whether it was the work of the tongue, the mouth, the work of the jaws, everything became better because of the other advantage is Sanskrit as a language has a lot of possibilities. So their speech became far more articulate in a period of time. And along with that came this other beautiful benefit of the minute the tongue, the cheeks, the teeth, the jaws, all of that starts working, along with the breath, automatically salivation becomes routine. It becomes more regulated, right? So digestion gets better. A lot of excessive salivation is taken care of. They're amazing the way these children just blossomed at every level. It was the sound, they were becoming more robust, their breath was becoming better, their posture was becoming better. They were articulating whatever they could articulate, they were articulating better. Besides digestion and, of course, the processes around the
Jyotsna,
cat.
I don't think there's a better cue to get everyone chanting along with you. You've talked about breath expansion, you've talked about mouth, you've talked about digestion, you've talked about ear to heart connection. Let them experience it. I don't think there's anything more that you both can give them now, this beautiful sharing. And to answer some questions, Mekhala lives in San Francisco, Jyotsna lives in Chennai, and the right teacher will be found to you. We'll send you the contact details for them both. And if anyone else or they suggest, someone for you, you will get the right teacher. So without, sorry, Mekhala, you wanted to add something?
I just wanted to add, along the lines of what Jyotsna auntie was saying, I have seen work of Appa, and so we had I was asked to teach a small boy who had a lot of wheezing problem, and he could not do any asana or any pranayama or any breathing for it. I mean, yeah. So all we did was teach chanting to him, and then over time he was able, his wheezing got better and better and better, and then slowly after he was a very regular student, and then after 4-5 years he in fact started assisting me in teaching kids yoga classes. So so I think along the lines of what Jyotsna auntie was saying, I think chanting works on your breath amazingly, and and I have also seen Appa just suggest chanting for some people who have had diabetes also. So this is just something that, and I'm sure, yes, I have seen, I mean, a lot more things I have seen, but these are just two things that just came to my mind right now that I just wanted to add along with Jyotsna aunties to, just to see that, it's a wide range of things that can be achieved through chanting. Yes,
Lovely. I feel like I'm on mildly meditative phase to sort of invite the chanting and to apply it. So for everyone, join us, be led by both of them. Just surrender. I promise you this is going to be fun and yet very calming.
thank you, Karishma. Before we start, I just wanted to say this at the beginning of the session, but then we just didn't get the right. I just wanted to tell Karishma and Mr. Madhaparthi, who have organized all this, and their team, I'm very happy to be here, and I'm especially happy to be with Jyotsna auntie, as how you mentioned Karishma. So the inconvenience of time is okay because I get to be with her. So I didn't want to, I know you also told me that I can come in the evening, but I didn't want to inconvenience Jyotsna auntie, so I decided I'm going to be here at this time.
How sweet. Thank you very much, Mekhala. And may I quickly add, thank you, Karishma. Thank you, Mr. Bala. We've been in touch with you. It's been a joy, and it's been very great joy to be with somebody I've known since forever in my life, Mekhala, somebody whose father has been everything to us. It's a joy to be together with her, a great honor to be here also on his birthday, because I don't know of another teacher like him. I think I wouldn't think in another few janmas I would meet a teacher like Desikachar, most generous, most loving, and deeply knowledgeable and sensitive. But Mekhala will do the honors of introducing her father.
Yes, and also today is a very special day, as Karishma said. It's my father's birthday, and I'm very happy to be with Jyotsna auntie on that day. She's a very, very dear student and devoted student, I should say. So as I was saying, Karishma, that Vedic chanting and yoga both fall under the tradition of the Guru Shishya Parampara, where the teacher and student relationship, and it has been passed down from many generations, from the teacher to student. We have to honor our teachers. So we start with a small chant, honoring all the teachers, not just our teacher, but the teachers before them. And then we will specifically offer a chant to our teacher, Sri T. Krishnamacharya. I also wanted to add, I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm not able to see everybody on the screen. I'm only able to see Saraswathi auntie's name here, and we both know each other. So I just want to say hello to her, and hello to everybody who I know, and they also know me. I'm not able to see the screen here, so a big hello to everybody that I know and they know me. And since I can only see Saraswathi auntie's name here, I'm just mentioning her, that's it. All right. Gurubhyastat gurubhyascha namo vakamdhimahe vrinimahe cha tatradhyau Dampati Jagatam Pati Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Shri Krishna Vagishayatishwarabhyam Samprapta Chakrankana Bhashyasaram Srinutnarangendra Yatau Samarpitaswam Shri Krishna Maryam Guruvaryamide Virodhe Kartike Mase Shatatara Kritodayam Yogacharyam Krishna Maryam Guruvaryamaham Bhaje. So how much time do we have, Karishma?
We have about 10 minutes.
Remaining?
10 minutes.
We have only 10 minutes remaining?
Yes.
Oh my God, I think we talked too much.
No, I think we talked the right amount. It's fine if you go over another 5 minutes. But yeah, whatever benefits people here, let's focus on that.
All right. I just wanted to give a small introduction on my teacher, Desikachar. This is his picture here. For those who don't know him, it's a very young picture of him, pictured by one of his students. So I'm offering my respects to him before I start this. I think you gave a brief introduction about him. And I would also like to say that I continue to learn from my mother, Mrs. Mekhala Desikachar. She's also my teacher. So my respects to her also, and to my family. And Vedas are very ancient scriptures. I'm just going to go over them very quickly because we need to know what we are chanting. Very ancient scriptures. They are written in ancient Sanskrit, which are now put in a Devanagari script. And they pretty much talk about everything. So the best way to answer what is Veda and what is chanting is Veda. Chanting is called as Veda Dhyanam in Sanskrit. Guru Ucharanam, Anu Ucharanam, Veda Dhyanam. So whatever the teacher says, you recite exactly as how the teacher says, following certain rules. There is no shortcut about it. The traditional way of doing this is I recite and the student repeats it twice or until they get it correctly. My teacher, Sri T.K. Desikachar, also my father, described chanting as the art of listening. It's the art of listening. And so the Veda is a vast system of knowledge, and they pretty much talk everything under the sun. So anything in life that you want to know or have a question about, you can go back to the Vedas and they will have an answer for you. So I will just leave it at that. So we can start with our interactive chanting. So we will start with a very simple chant, and this is how we are going to do this. So we will start with a sun chant. Jyotsna Aunty will start that, and she will recite once, and she will recite it again, and the participants can recite along with her. And we will show an example as how, like, if I am a participant, and I'm going to mute my mic. So, like, if I'm a participant, she's going to recite, and I'm going to just, with my mic on, I'm just going to show you how to repeat it. So,
sure. So these will just be very simple words. Om Hram.
Om Hram. So this is how the participants have to repeat it. So I will leave the stage to her.
Right. So if you can be on mute, it would be easier for everyone to. And like Mekhala said, The idea would be to listen. So please give me your ears. Om Hram. Om Hrim. Om Hroom. Om Hraim.
Mekhala, I think it'll be nicer if you also are not on mute so that we all can chant with you after Jyotsna. Thank you.
Om Hraum.
Om Hraum.
Om Hraha.
Om Hraha.
Mekhala, would you like to do a slightly longer passage for
Yes.
people to repeat?
Yeah.
We have about 2 minutes left.
Okay.
So please go ahead and then we'll
Yes.
stop. We'll stop at about 2-3 minutes. That's okay. Yeah.
We'll do a small one. It's about a relationship between teacher and student, or the provider and the receiver. Sahana vavatu.
Sahana vavatu.
Sahanau bhunaktu.
Sahanau bhunaktu.
Saha viryam.
Saha viryam.
Karavavahai.
Karavavahai.
Tejasvina.
Tejasvina.
Vadhitamastu.
Vadhitamastu.
Ma vidvishavahai.
Ma vidvishavahai.
Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi.
Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. I think there is, Mekhala, would you like to end with one of the passages that you had chosen? We have another moment, we have another minute or two to go, Karishma. So one of the little longer passages that you had chosen. It'll be a pleasure to listen to Mekhala after all this talk.
All right. So this is because we are in a pandemic where this people are not in the greatest, so this is a small chant, and this is about faith and how we all need that faith today. Uh, this chant pretty much says that faith protects you like how a mother will protect you. So it's important to have that faith in, especially at this time. I just need to. Um, ॐ श्रद्धयाग्निः समिध्यते श्रद्धया विन्दते हविः श्रद्धां भगस्य मूर्धनि वचसा वेदयामसि प्रियगुश्रद्धे ददतः प्रियगुश्रद्धे दिदासतः प्रियं भोजेषु यज्वसु अस्माकमुदितं कृधि यथा देवा असुरेषु श्रद्धा विश्वमिदं जगत् श्रद्धां कामस्य मातरम् हविषा वर्धयामसि. Thank you. I just shortened it because of.
Thank you so much for that. That was beautiful. I wish we had more time. Um, and I think this actually flows really beautifully in what we are going to do throughout the day. It's a beautiful start to this. So thank you so very much, Mekhala and
Thank you
Jyotsna.
very, very much, both of you. And it's a pleasure to see Saras and, of course, Raghu later. It's like one large family gathering. Thank you. Thank you, Mekhala. It's honestly a pleasure to listen to you. Thank you.
I think that Saras is going to be talking about yoga mind versus natural mind, and the chanting that you both have exposed people to and shared has already led people towards a yoga mind and set things up for Saras in a beautiful way. So I'm grateful for that, and for all of you who are listening. We will put out contact details of Mekhala and Jyotsna, and of course Saras later. So I hope that you understand the resonance of chanting, the vibration that you felt in your being while Meghna and Jyotsna led you through that. And I hope that, sometimes it's like you need to drink water, that quest, that thirst begins for you in with regard to chanting. So thank you so much. Sarah, it's so lovely to see you looking so pretty in this yellow sari with the yellow background. Can you hear? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Hi, Karishma.
Hello. So Saras actually doesn't need a lot of introduction to many people because she has been. Sorry, I just need to. Sorry. Um, sorry, I had a little bit of a technical thing going on there. Saras is someone who's been doing yoga for the last 30 years. She's the founder of Yoga Vahini, which literally means the vehicle of yoga. So she's throughout the years, she has taken yoga to various countries, and I have been privileged to be Saras's student. And I've witnessed her workshops, I've witnessed her leading me through the nature of my mind. And that's why when I wanted to share with people what a yoga mind is, the first name that came to me was Saraswathi Vasudevan, because nobody does it like her. She is also a student of Desikachar, so, and she is also one that believes that yoga can change your life to make it more positive. And she's, through these teachings, through the many people that she has taught, she's actually, I live in Hyderabad where there's a huge Yoga Vahini chapter. People are alive and awakened every single day to be better because of that. And from my own experience with Saras, she's on the board members of many panels from America to Canada. Sorry, not Canada probably, but America and Australia, where I had the privilege of studying with her. But one of the most beautiful workshops I ever did was with Saras. And in my own experience, the first time that I saw beauty was in a very universal way was with my experience with Saras. When I remember being at an Ayurvedic retreat in Kerala and looking at a crow, the simple common crow, and feeling that Atma exists, but that beauty of the crow and me and everything from earth to tree is one. And Saras led me to that. So thank you, Saras. I want you, all of you here, to witness that same sense of immersive experience of how you can apply yoga in into your everyday life and really understand what the nature of mind has to do with it. Saras, I know you love talking about the mind, and I know you've done every possible like tool and technique that is out there to understand that. But let's start with a very simple question. What is a yoga mind?
Karishma, may I, before I answer that question, just share my gratitude for inviting me, you and Bala sir and Rupa. I'm so happy and really feel very privileged, especially to be here with Mekhala and Jyotsna, who I hold very, very dear to my heart. And of course, Raghu, who's going to come after me. I'm just so touched and happy that we are here together on Sir's birthday. Yeah, nothing can be better than this.
Thank you.
So on that note, I think the question, can you come back to the question, please?
Yes, sure. Actually, Saras, why don't we start off with a little mindfulness, because I think we're all feeling a little overwhelmed with the chanting and the journey it took us through. So lead us, guide us, gently somewhere, and then we'll start with the questions if you don't mind.
Sure. Yeah. So if we want to really talk about the mind, we need to be fully present here, with each other, completely present. So I'll just lead you through a short practice, and hoping those who are joining early morning from Canada and afternoon in India on a hot summer day, we will be able to meet in the space and be fully present. So please sit with your back erect. Relax your shoulders, your neck is where we hold a lot of tension. If you're sitting on a chair, make sure your feet is firmly planted on the ground. Just gather your mind, let it come back into the body. And bring your awareness to your breath. If you like, you can bring one hand to your abdomen where you're able to feel the movement of your breath. You may feel a gentle expansion in your abdomen as you inhale, and the relaxation as you exhale. And even as you're observing your breath, you will begin to see that the breath has changed. It has become deeper and fuller. Now you can bring the other hand to your chest. Stay with a slow, long exhalation, focusing on your lower abdomen, relaxing your chest. And as you inhale, let the breath fill in without much effort as you inhale. Expanding from the chest to the upper abdomen. Pause and then start exhaling from the lower abdomen, slowly emptying and complete with the relaxation of your chest. No force. Don't try to do anything that might agitate the breath. Just let the breath flow in as you inhale and empty yourself as you exhale, emptying any thoughts, any distractions or preoccupations of the mind. Allow yourself to completely relax and let go. Anything that does not belong to this moment, just let it go. You can bring your hands down and continue to stay with 3 more breaths with total attention from the beginning of your exhalation. Complete your exhalation, pause, and then inhale slowly and pause. Wonderful. Once you complete 3 breaths, you can open your eyes.
I already feel transported, Saras. I think we can end the session here.
Okay.
So what is a yoga mind, Saras?
Okay, so before I get into the yoga mind, I think we need to talk about the mind that we are in most of the time, because otherwise just an imagination. If you ask me what's a yoga mind, I can only talk about it intellectually because I haven't really experienced that in a very strong way, I should say. But I also want to share, before we go into the question, 3 points. One is why this question is very relevant today. Because in the current situation with COVID and all that, we're wondering and worrying and talking so much about our physical health symptoms and this and that. We hardly ever look at the mind, we talk about the mind. Uh, we are not aware how much of anxiety and depression and all that people are experiencing. We almost don't have a language to talk about it. People can hardly share because when they share, others get more anxious. So there's so many ways that the mind is not addressed adequately through this whole period. Also all our conventional systems of connecting and taking care of each other, all that has changed. So it is all the more important that we talk about the mind or we work with the mind in a more tangible way. The second reason is what Mekhala and Jyotsna were talking about, the sense of well-being. And our sense of well-being is directly equal to our state of mind. So depending on my state of mind is how I can experience my sense of well-being. So this is very, very important. And the third is that very often when we say yoga, we're almost in our mind equating it to asana. So yoga is not asana. Asana is a part of yoga. So when we're talking about on the mat, off the mat, all this, we're probably referring to asana, not yoga. Whereas yoga is all about the mind. Yeah. So shall we talk about what is the state of mind we are in most of the time? Then we could probably get a glimpse of what this yoga mind could be. Yeah.
Well, it's beautiful. It's nice to have a context as to why this is relevant and what the natural state of mind is. Yes.
So the commentary to the first sutra in the first chapter of Yoga Sutra talks about 5 states of mind. Okay, out of which 3 states of mind are not a yogic state of mind, and the 4th and the 5th state are considered states of mind relevant or which is yoga. Okay. And in the first three, the two, one is not ready for yoga also. So one is what's called a kshipta mind, like a monkey mind. Don't worry about the Sanskrit words. A monkey mind, okay, mind that is jumping around. And in fact, in one of the commentaries by Vivekananda on Raja Yoga, he talks about this monkey mind is not just a monkey. Okay, monkey bitten by a scorpion, possessed by a ghost, and drunk. You can imagine what that is. Yeah, that is an extremely broken, fragmented, agitated mind. Now that mind is not ready for yoga. Okay, so an extreme state of kshipta could be where you're completely gone, broken. So that mind obviously is not ready for yoga. But we have different shades of kshipta that we experience. Sometimes we get easily agitated, easily provoked, easily reactive. That's some greater color of the kshipta coming in. Yeah. Then on the other end of the spectrum is what we call a moodha mind. It's compared to a water buffalo. So it's nothing about the monkey and the water buffalo. Okay, they can be far more meditative than all of us. But those are the examples given. Right? Dull mind which just wants to lie down, switch off the alarm. I want to just eat. I want to binge on Netflix. And we all get into those states, right? Sometimes we do too much of work. We get so exhausted that we want to go into the other extreme. And on an extreme of moodha is a highly depressed mind, fully covered by heaviness. It's like cloaked. The mind is opaque. So it cannot see, it cannot think, it cannot function properly. That's one level. Many shades of moodha will be very indulgent mind. No, I just want to have sensory pleasure. I just want to have comfort. I can't think of anything else. All those are shades of moodha. Now, these two minds, when I am in these two states of mind, it is very difficult to get on the path of yoga. Even to practice asana or pranayama, it's very, very difficult. Somebody has to pull and drag and push, and no, still I don't want to move a finger. Yeah, or I'm just all over the place that I can't even fathom what's happening. The middle state, imagine like a pendulum, it can go to one end and the other end. You come to the middle. It's a mind that is capable of attention, but a habitually distracted mind, which is called a vikshipta mind. This is a mind, hopefully we are in at least now. Otherwise, we can't be sitting here. Yeah, the mind can be attentive. Then suddenly I'll think of, oh, I forgot this phone call. Oh, I don't know what to cook for dinner. Suddenly the mind can move away and then it can come back. So that is the mind that is reasonably ready for yoga. So I should at least be in that state to start my practice. And then when I'm saying ready for yoga, that itself is another, many more steps to go. Maybe I'm ready for some asana pranayama practice. And I could say, okay, from vikshipta to a little going into the kshipta and a little going into the moodha, maybe a little wider spectrum. I could say I could start somewhere. I can do my asana practice. I can do some pranayama. Maybe sometimes I need a lot of attention from the teacher if I'm on, the edges. But when I'm more in the middle, I'll say, yeah, you teach me, I will do the practice and come back to you. Yeah, that's where we begin. And then to be ready for yoga, the mind has to be reasonably attentive, reasonably steady. That is when the state of yoga can even be understood. So there is a very beautiful verse in the third chapter, which is referring to one of the commentaries to, it is one of the commentaries to the sixth sutra in the third chapter, which says, Yogena yogo jnatavyo. For me to understand yoga, I need to be in a state of yoga. Okay. Yogo yogat pravartate. To reach a state of yoga, I have to practice yoga. So then I can look at the whole spectrum of practices, whether it is chanting or asana or pranayama or all the different practices relating to pratyahara, all the meditative practices that we call bhavana, and diet and lifestyle changes, the yama niyamas particularly. Yeah, all this will bring me to a state of mind which is ready to understand yoga. So then we are saying Atha Yoga Anushasana. Now we are ready to study yoga, to get into a more serious commitment. Yeah, so everything that I'm talking about is pre-yoga. So a natural state, hopefully, is that vikshipta, then moving towards the fourth state. The fourth and the fifth are, of course, yoga states. So,
Everyone who's listening can associate with this, right? Everyone has had those moments where you're completely down, dull, depressed, and we've had those moments of high. No matter what, we're just feeling hyper, feel like bouncing off the walls. And of course, the state that you're talking about, and you're a practitioner of almost 30 years, and you're saying you're in a state of vikshita, which is that distracted mind. So for people, no, because people think that, oh, you've been doing yoga for so long, don't you have a completely calm, resonance throughout? Doesn't your mind should not be distracted if you've been doing it for so long and things like that, right, Saras?
Delusion. Okay. Because I think we, in our daily life, there are so many things that distract the mind. First thing is this. Yeah. We get so habituated to looking at the phone all the time, and then there's so many things that we are doing. So naturally, the mind is conditioned to be more vikshipta. So that's very important point that you brought. That when I'm talking about these states, one gets habituated to it. It becomes a samskara. It becomes a conditioning or a habit. Yeah. So the more I am in a mudha state, more I'm eating heavy food, curd and ice creams and all that, then I will be in that state. I'll be blissful. I can be in that state for a very long time, or I can be highly driven and trying to do 100 things at a time. And sometimes as yoga teachers, we try to do that. And it's not helpful, really. Yeah. We can be in a kshipta state, moving towards kshipta. We are not supposed to be, but because we are trying to handle many things. But coming back and saying, I recognize that my mind is now getting distracted, or recognize that my mind is now dull and heavy, and it's not the time for me to do something, itself is good enough. Because that means there is some awareness. There is an awakening and saying, I'm seeing it. That means there is some level of clarity and sattva. So the mind has some possibility to take charge. So that's why I said vikshipta is important.
And that is the key, the awareness to that state of mind. Because we're all having different states of minds constantly. And this acceptance of, okay, I'm in the state of mind, and not trying to delude yourself also. Saying, yes, that, oh, okay, actually, I'm in a very calm state of mind. I feel perfectly okay. Nothing is wrong with me.
I could be disassociated. I could be in a mudha state and say nothing affects me. I'm so chilled out, but I could be in a complete mudha state. Yeah. So how do I know?
So how does one build that awareness, Saras? How does that we cultivate this awareness? What are the tools and techniques that you guide people through to become aware of these states of mind?
So I think even before getting there, I want to know why I want to do that. Okay, I'm very comfortable. And with this mind, with this vikshipta mind, I am able to do a lot, right? People are able to function quite well. They're running corporations. So much is happening in the world with this mind. So why do I need to do anything to get to a better state of mind or a yogic state of mind? That is an important question to ask.
My motivation, right?
My motivation, yeah. So what is the direction I want to go, and why do I want to go there? So for me, I can talk about my personal journey in yoga. It was recognizing that the mind, because I was a very sensitive person, I'm still, like, I could get hurt easily, and I could absorb what somebody says or how they behave. I could experience anger, but I cannot allow myself to experience, so I bottle it up, and then that impacts my health. Then I ruminate, then I can become depressed. So all those things, and it was difficult. Sometimes relationships become difficult. We want to draw boundaries, then we build walls instead of drawing simple boundaries for our action. Then we get really separated from people. And I realized that this practice was helping me to understand what is really happening. And over a period of time, the tendency to get hurt comes down. Yeah. The tendency to want to hurt somebody also comes down. Yeah. And the fear that I don't want to get hurt also comes down. That if I'm constantly encountering relationships thinking, I don't want to get hurt, I'm never going to connect. Yeah. But if I tell myself, it doesn't matter. I mean, I'm not afraid of getting hurt because I will get hurt. We are all human beings, and that's part of our nature. So all these things began to change, and it definitely helped me with my health, with my well-being, and with my role that I'm playing in my life, all the roles that I'm playing. So I think that is very important when I'm beginning to recognize that when I get hurt, okay, I can blame the world. I can say this person behaved this way, that's why I'm suffering. I can go on doing that my whole lifetime, and I don't know, many lifetimes. But the moment I recognize that I am getting hurt because of something inside me, okay, I need to understand that better, and I can do something about it, then I am ready for yoga. So I think that is really my motivation. Whatever I want to do, I want to do it better, at least a little better. Yeah. I want my life to be more meaningful. I want to be able to live happily and also help others to live happily. And these are good enough reasons, I think. Of course, good health, well being, all that. Yeah. So, yeah, I think that is very important to ask. And then also recognizing what comes in the way. Saying that a vikshipta mind or a mind that is habitually distracted and also capable of attention, if that is my usual default setting, there are two things. One is we can say it's a good news, the other is the bad news. Okay, the good news is that, I'll say the bad news first, then I will top it up with the good news. Yeah. The bad news is that if I continue to be in that state, like Newton's third law of motion, everything will continue to be in a state of rest or uniform motion unless there is some kind of force or something coming. Yeah. I'm not a physics student, so Mekhala has to correct me with that. Unless there is an impetus, I can continue to be in a mudha state or a chitta state all my life. I can make my life miserable. I can make the life of other people miserable. When I begin to recognize that I can do something about it, then I have to change it. So the bad news is that if I don't make an effort, if I don't make a consistent effort, then I will continue to be in these states. I can move from one end to the other end very easily. Yeah. I work very, very hard and completely exhaust myself. Then I go to the mudha. Then from there, I go into the kshipta. So I can swing between these two states. That's the bad news. The good news is that this can change. Yeah. If I'm coming closer to the vikshipta and I'm beginning to recognize that I can do something about it, then through the right kind of practices, right kind of lifestyle changes, and keeping them consistent, sustaining them, I will be able to change my conditioning, change the nature of my mind, change the state of my mind. So I can slowly move from vikshipta to what we call ekagrata, a mind that is capable of attention, one-pointed attention. Yeah. So with asana, pranayama practice and everything, we are hoping to move from that vikshipta state closer to the ekagrata state. So ideally, a yoga practitioner, somebody has had a strong practice for many years, should be somewhere between the vikshipta and ekagrata. Yeah. And not so easily swayed into the kshipta and mudha. When I recognize I'm getting swayed, I have to bring myself back. So I have to pay attention to my practice, my food. Yeah, I have to know what is making me more dull, what is agitating me. I have to recognize those conditions and deal with them so that this habit of being more centered, being more present, becomes closer and closer to my natural state. That becomes my natural state of mind. That's the state of mind of a yogi. Yeah. So at least somewhere I can experience that, and then I have a taste of that. So when my mind is very calm and relaxed, when somebody says something, I may take a moment to step back without reacting immediately and making it more worse for me and the other. I might just step back and watch it and say, okay, these are the situations in which this person is speaking like this. I may have to understand this better before I react, or I may have to have a conversation to understand this better with the other person. So I have made a choice in that moment to direct my energy in a different direction than compulsively getting into a reactive mode or into the freeze mode. So what we're calling the fight, flight, freeze, all these are relating to these states. fight and flight could be the rajas. Fight is more rajasic, yeah. Flight could be a combination of rajas and tamas, and freeze is like full tamas. I want to just put a blanket over my head and go to sleep. I don't want to deal with the world, right? So it's the good news is that with practice, we can recondition the mind. By reconditioning the body, by reconditioning the breath, we slowly recondition the mind.
So it's
And
really
yeah,
very well.
recondition.
What you're saying is your motivation has been that you started recognizing, you brought in that little bit of awareness, you started recognizing the patterns in your own behavior, and you took responsibility, and then you reduced the amount of pain for yourself. You tasted the sweet fruit of working on yourself, and then that motivates you to stay on the path and to use these tools of yoga, whether it's asana, pranayama, meditation, whether it's use understanding the awareness of the relationship of food, what triggers you in your environment, what conditioning is affecting you, how your samskaras affecting you, right? And you try to move away from the pain, and that's wonderful. But if I'm listening to something like this for the first time, right, and I know that so many people go through their entire life, like you said, blaming that person, blaming the universe, blaming, oh, I'm this is my life, and feeling the pain so intensely, like, why me? Why is this only happening to me?
We can do
Yeah.
that. We also have to remember. I think remembering is very important. Like we can't say once I have learned, once I have understood, I fully practice that. I have to keep coming back to the learning and the reflection.
So staying aware, staying humble to the lessons, being grounded and to the acceptance of that moment. But I'm sure there are so many obstacles, because even in that state, there is pain. It's painful to look at your own conditioning and label that, saying, I am like this, right? I am being stubborn. I am, being afraid. I am being confrontational. That itself is pain in some context. Okay, it may take me to the next place, but since both are painful, I'll just use, I'm already in my current state, so I'll just use this state of pain, right? So what are the obstacles that come up for people? You've journeyed with so many different clients and students over the years. What are the common obstacles you see, and the people here can actually say, yes, that could be me, this is why I'm stopping the path of yoga, right?
Yeah, I can talk about the obstacles that I have experienced, not so much about what other people are experiencing, right? It's for us to say it's our journey, right? First obstacle, of course, is vyadhi or illness. Because when illness takes over, it's very little that we can do, because the mind immediately can get agitated, disturbed, anxious. Then there are a whole lot of physiological symptoms that come up that can further agitate the mind. So it does take the mind away from attention and focus, and I can't be thinking about all these things. Yeah, I may not even be sitting here and talking to you if I'm not well. Yeah. The second obstacle, I'm not using maybe I'll use the Sanskrit words, but I'm explaining it also. Sthana is mental inertia. It's like I may not even start. I may just say, okay, later, or I may have a lot of resistance to certain things. So that's just the mind will not open up and it will not take that step forward. The third is samshaya, doubt. It's like the mind jumping from one thing to the other. Should I do this or should I do that? I am not willing to invest fully in something because my mind wants to try many things and I'm not sure if this is the right thing for me, right? I go to one teacher and I think maybe I should have gone to the other teacher, or I have to try this or I have to try that. Samshaya. Then the fourth one is pramada. Pramada is sometimes we think, oh, I have understood this, so I can become careless, I can become mindless. If I'm a yoga practitioner and teacher, I might already think that I can listen very well. And I might stop listening because I can just become very casual and careless about it. Yeah? Alasya is the fifth one, is laziness, sloth, which could be mental and physical. So I just don't want to get up, I just don't want to do something. Yeah. That's very, very common. Yeah, we all experience that with food, with too much of activity, again, illness and all that. Um, Avirati. Avirati is like, I want it now. I just want it now. I can't wait. So imagine if you have both alasya and avirati together. I don't want to do anything, but I want it now. Yeah, that is the state. And then the last three are a little more subtle and deeper. Bhranti Darshana. Bhranti Darshana is a kind of being in a delusional state and saying, oh, I know all this. I can explain all this. I can talk about it. Therefore, I think I have arrived. I think I have experienced samadhi because I can talk about samadhi. Then I behave like that. And people also can put another person, especially a teacher, on a pedestal and think, oh, this teacher, like what you said, no? 30 years, why are you still in Vikshipta? You should be in Ekagrata. Thank God you didn't say I should be in Nirodha. Yeah.
Someone was just asking, what are the fourth and fifth states of mind? And you've said it now. So
Then Alabdha Bhumikatva is like, I don't persevere enough. I make some effort and then I give up. That kind of obstacle. And so these are more deeper, subtler levels obstacles that we experience. And then the last one, Anavasthitatva, is I am able to experience something. There is a certain level of clarity, insight that I have experienced, but I don't hold on to it. So I can fall down. So all these are the obstacles that usually don't come alone. They come together like a family. Father, mother, grandfather, grandmother, everybody comes together and it disturbs my mind, my body, my breath, and that feeling of dukkham, no, that constriction, all that can happen.
you've summarized this so well, Saras. Can you take us through an actual practice? Because I think that a lot of people listening can easily say, yes, that's my obstacles. Yes, that's my obstacle. But actually experiencing in a deep, immersive way, even if it's just, for the next 10 minutes that we have.
I hope you want to experience your obstacles, no?
No, sorry. So we identify those obstacles, and I hope that we say, you know what? Okay, now we have got into some state of a yoga mind, hopefully.
Okay, so I can lead you through a short practice, like what we started in the beginning, yeah, and just help one to recognize what has come up for you as you were listening to me. I'm sure a lot of things got evoked. Oh yeah, I can recognize that. Oh, this is the thing. And very often we think of other people. We think of other people who have these obstacles. Come back to yourself and just look at it and see if you can recognize it for yourself. And I will just lead you through a short practice to look at what has come up and keep dropping it so that you can come back into a more quieter, deeper state of mind.
Beautiful. So the one tool is come back to yourself when you are doing this. Keep coming back to ourselves as you guide us through the practice.
I would say the tool is the breath. One
Okay.
tool is the breath that will help you to do all this. Whether you are coming back to yourself or not, I don't know. But if you can work with the breath, something will happen. Yeah?
Let's try it. Thank you, Saras.
So please sit with your back erect. Just take a minute to settle down, become aware of your body. Observe the sensations in your body. Make sure your posture is comfortable. You're not holding any tension or tightness. Relax. But keep the spine erect so the mind can be more attentive. You bring your chin down, straighten your back. You will automatically feel that the mind becomes a little more attentive. Now bring your awareness to your breath. Just become aware of your exhalation and your inhalation. And slowly begin to deepen and lengthen your breath. Exhaling very slowly, very quietly and completely. And then allow the inhalation to happen. Now, as you inhale, become aware of whatever is arising in the mind. If you're sitting with your eyes closed, then become aware of the images, what you have just listened to or seen, or whatever you may be holding on of the outside world right now. And as you exhale, just let go of it. You learn to hold it lightly so that it can drop away with your exhalation. It will help if you can pause briefly after your exhalation to experience a little bit of stillness in the mind. And then let the inhalation happen. Become aware again of whatever is arising in the mind. And exhale completely, letting go, emptying the mind. As you exhale, and just pause after exhale, feel yourself settling down into a deeper space. As you keep letting go of all that you were holding on to. And now, as you inhale, you may become aware of your thoughts, your questions, any memories that could have got triggered. Whatever it is, just observe what has come up. And as you exhale, let go of that also. Let the breath be very quiet so you can slowly settle down into a much deeper space beyond the thinking mind. Thoughts may come and go, but you are not getting carried away by them. You can watch them like watching the clouds passing through the sky. And now you become aware of yourself. And as you inhale, you're bringing awareness to yourself, the thoughts about who you are, where you are, what are your aspirations, what troubles you. Whatever comes up, now let go of that also as you're exhaling. And you allow yourself to settle down into a much deeper space of quietness where you're just aware. As you inhale, you become aware of this awareness. Exhale, feel this expand. Let it expand beyond yourself. It's not anymore your awareness or my awareness, it's just awareness. And from this space, watch your breath. Just the rising and falling of the natural breath. Becoming aware of yourself, your thoughts, your senses, and your body. And maybe you were able to touch a very deep, quiet space within you. You slowly come back, become more aware of your breath. Bring your awareness to your body sensations. Your posture. And slowly, whenever you feel ready, open your eyes.
Thank you, Saras. I think that really helped us go into a quieter space and at least get a taste of what possibly a yoga mind can be. Uh, I'd also like to welcome at this point Raghu Ananthanarayanan. Um,
Karishma, just one moment. I want to share that this beautiful practice was taught by Raghu. And it's something that I start my practice every day with. Such a beautiful way to go into a space from where you can watch the world and deal with the world.
and that's I think that's such a natural thing. We started with Mekhala and Jyotsna chanting, we people got into this quieter space, and then you led them through these practices. You answered questions about what is the state of the mind, different states of mind, bringing awareness to that. And now Raghu is going to talk to us about the Yoga Sutra, and our inner work through that. And I think that people, by the end of this session, this 3 block thing that we have planned for International Yoga Day, will come away feeling that yoga is, like you said, not just an asana practice, but something that's well beyond that, with so many different tools and awareness techniques that we can practice. So thank you so much, Saras, for getting us here. So we can now invite Raghu into our ears, hearts, bodies, and possibly help us understand this beautiful ancient text even more. But let me first, I think, start off with introducing you, Raghu. For people who don't know Raghu, he has been in the space of yoga for almost 40 years now. And he's had the privilege of having 3 teachers, um, Krishnamacharya, Jiddu Krishnamurti, and as well as Pauline Garg. And he describes this experience to have been such an immersive experience in his late 20s that allowed him to now essentially dedicate his life's work into the service of others. And the way that he does that is, it was so interesting for me to read about this, because he's working with tribals, he's working with artists, he's working with corporates, right from, the Barefoot Institute at the Tata School of Social Sciences, right up to Tower Nowhere, which is talking about client reorganization and alignment. He's also authored many books. And but for me, on a very personal note, I know Raghu because he's a teacher to many of my teachers. And my teacher, Kamala, speaks so highly of you, Raghu, that, over the years now, by the way, to everyone listening, I put in a petition for Raghu to teach me the Yoga Sutra and go do a deep dive into it. And my petition is still waiting. And like Mekhala shared earlier, when the need is deep enough, the teacher will appear. So I'm still waiting. So that is the connection that people have and the regard that people hold Raghu Ananthanarayanan with, that, we're willing to sort of wait, we're willing to sort of really absorb all his teachings because he's been taught by the greats himself. And I think that that is what continues to keep him in the service of others. He lives in beautiful, in Kotagiri, up in the hills of the Nilgiris. And I think that for people, it's almost like a pilgrimage when they go and meet him, because they want to understand the teachings and gain those learning from a very, very pure source. I hope that does justice to you, Raghu.
It surprises me, Karishma. The other day, Saras was introducing me yesterday only, and I was saying, "Oh, sounds like a nice guy. Who's this?"
You're checking.
Yeah, but I'm also learning to say, okay, what can I do? If this is the way you people look at me, what can I do about it?
You may as well humor us, Raghu, because
that's it. Yeah,
because to me, honestly, when I study the Yoga Sutra and everything like Saras we talked about is something that I have learned over and over again from Saras as well, and Kamla and so many different teachers from America to Australia. But when I listen to it again, I learn something new, right?
correct.
It's the Yoga Sutra, though, which is a text that is timeless. It was written, 2000 years ago, and it still holds so much value today. And because we're going to be discussing inner work through the Yoga Sutra, I'd like you to first start off with why the Yoga Sutra is still relevant today. Is it relevant in your opinion?
It's absolutely relevant. There's no two ways about it. And I think maybe this question comes up also because somebody decided when they were creating libraries in India that Yoga Sutra should go into this thing called philosophy, right? It ought to have been kept under whatever these categories are as psychology. Okay. And philosophy usually in the current context is looked at as a useless enterprise. Whereas once upon a time, long, long ago, you had philosophers who were telling you how to live. They were very relevant, right? Today, it's gone into that. So that's one reason why you might, or other people might have this question. Yeah. The other issue that's, something we all need to look at carefully is these days we are caught with these binaries, old and new and whatever. Right? And that helps commerce a hell of a lot, right? How do you make money if there is no new fashion coming up next year and you're wearing the same old clothes for 5-6 years, right? It's a little commercially not a great thing to do, right? So there are these huge things that are talked about, old, new, and then there has been lots of other things in the flow of science, for example. There's an assumption that the new is somehow better than the old. Right? But what gets obfuscated in all of this is the human mind hasn't changed. Right? For thousands of years, it has not changed. Therefore, something written insightfully about the human mind, and I haven't come across anything as insightful as the Yoga Sutra about the human mind, is relevant as long as we retain this mind, it's going to be relevant, right? And now it's, much of what has been talked about in yoga is being recognized as very deep psychology, thanks to Dalai Lama and how he holds the Indic understanding and the kind of respect he gives for the texts that have come from here and so on. People are understanding it more and more, right? And there's a fair amount of work that's being done now in understanding Yoga Sutra as psychology. So it's basically all about the Yoga Sutra. A number of sutras that talk about Bahiranga Yoga will be about 10 or 12 sutras at the most, right? And then there is about 60, 70 sutras that talk about the mind in exactly the same terms as any psychology book. Now, what is perception? What is proper perception? What is improper perception? And that whole gamut of understanding the mind and how the mind functions in very great depth. Yeah, we've had a lot of people who have done psychology. Saras herself has done psychology. Lots of people who've done psychology, who are psychotherapists, when they come and start studying the Yoga Sutra, they're amazed with the depth of the text. And the way it talks about the mind is just unparalleled.
So, this is the text for the human mind. The human mind has not changed. The psychology of the human mind remains the same. And so, therefore, it should have been used in the psychology section because there isn't a book comparable in history. In the last 2000 years, there hasn't been a better book for everyone who's listening. There hasn't been a better book than the Yoga Sutra for the psychology of our mind. And because we want to do
this is not just me, Karishma, this is not just me saying this, okay? This has been alluded to by Carl Jung. It's been alluded to by several people. Yeah. And in fact, in Canada, there's one great scholar called Dr. Anand Pranjpe, who's done enormous work in Western psychology, Western philosophy, Indian psychology, philosophy. He's quite clear that in all his reading, he hasn't come across a text that is as deep and as profound about the human mind. Yeah, so it's not a private opinion that I'm sharing with you.
right. It's backed by experts. And I assume that you're also an expert in this, Raghu. So I'm taking your word for it.
Okay.
And I personally think that as well, right? Because you can take one sutra and you can apply it to your life, and you can see it, just that one sutra can deepen and deepen your experience, and you can look at it from different angles, and that same sutra can play out in a different way completely. And it's such a beautiful journey of just even that one sutra, forget 300. So
Right.
can you share with us how the Yoga Sutra has impacted your life? Like, what has your personal journey been with the Yoga Sutra?
My personal journey, see, I came to study yoga with Desikachar, and today's his birthday, na? So a very deep pranam to him. And yeah, see, I came to study with him at a time when I was going through a very, very difficult period in my life, right? And Deshkachar didn't just say come and learn. He did the usual thing of saying come back after 2 months and whatever. So I kept turning up like a bad penny on the exact date and time that he told me. So finally he had to say yes, kind of a thing. So I started studying with him, and I remember the first class that I had with him very, very clearly. Right at the end of doing the asana practice, he gave me a pranayama to do. And when I was doing that pranayama, I actually experienced, like, the dark clouds around my head, which I was sitting with, just clear up, and a sense of some clarity and some light coming through. Okay, that's where it started. And so it's been a very profound thing for me in terms of how it's impacted my life and what it's done for me. And it really helped me to do 2-3 things. Now, one, when you're in a difficult situation, which is in a sense, may not be life threatening in that sense, but as close to it as it can be. And I had to go through that kind of period of quite a deep tension and difficulty and all that for almost 8-10 years. So through that period of time, doing the asana practice regularly, start with, and pranayama was very, very important, because in Ayurveda, they talk about shamanam, right? Where your symptomatic reactions are kept down. That is extremely critical to start with, because your body retains chemicals of, when every time you get into a state of any feeling of threat or anything like that, there is a reaction. And many of the body chemicals stay in the system for 72 hours, some of them 48, and so on, right? And if these chemicals are not washed off constantly, you're in a high state of readiness constantly. And that is how psychosomatic illnesses start, right? So just the practice of asana and pranayama was critical. And then the study of the Yoga Sutras, the way I encountered it with Desikachar and his father, Yogacharya Krishnamacharya, was extremely self-reflective, right? We had a lot of one-on-one classes and things like that. So one could speak about, where one was. And then Desikachar would not only listen, which is very, very critical. There's a quality of listening that he was able to bring in that is quite unique, right? Plus reflecting from himself and telling me what sutras might be relevant and what practices might be relevant and so on. So in a sense, I learned the sutras also as a way of understanding myself step by step by step, and what would be relevant and so on. So I've also learned it in a the traditional way. But these things were, to me, an understanding and a meaning that is not the meaning of the word, not the meaning that is, external, but how that meaning is meaningful in my life, right? And how I can start understanding and working with several of these things, right? So the Yoga Sutras to me became a map of introspection, right? And there you don't have any other map for introspection. That much I can tell you.
Which is better than the Yoga Sutra, right? Yeah. So I think that to sort of gather what you've said is, a lot of us go through obstacles, right? We can sit with the pain, or we can say what next and how can we make this better, right? Because always have two choices. And I think a lot of texts talk about this, like use the pain as an opportunity to grow, or you can let the phase, decide when the pain comes and goes, or use that pain and channel it into something more positive, which is what happened when you kept showing up and saying, I want these classes, right? And then you use the practice that was given to you, when you felt the effects of those sensations, the chemicals, the biochemical reactions of stress being reduced every single time that you were doing the practices, and trying to stay in that calm state of mind, so that disease, so that affliction, so that pain does not come back. I think for
No, no, no,
anyone
no,
who's
no.
listening, we all have,
There's
every
no,
human being
no,
has
no,
pain.
Karishma.
There's no
No,
somebody
Karishma.
who's never been through pain.
Wait.
Use that information, use these tools to sort of say, how can I stay
Can't
with
hear.
this pain, use it as an opportunity.
No, something is happening in the. Hello. It's gone off. I can't hear. My system is okay. Karishma,
I'm
I couldn't hear you at a point of time.
I'm sorry. So I'm just going to quickly recap. I'm not sure when I got lost.
You got lost when you were saying that, pain doesn't come back. And I was a little concerned with that statement of yours.
That's good. I'm glad that it dropped off at a point of concern. So,
Yeah.
would you like to say something more on that before I go on then, Raghu?
Yeah. Please. Yeah, because see, the issue is not avoidance of pain. Okay, nowhere in the Yoga Sutras does it say that pain will not happen or pleasure will not happen or any such thing. In fact, it says that there are three ways in which it will happen. Sometimes you cause it for yourself, sometimes others cause it for you, and sometimes you don't know where it's coming from. This is going to keep on happening, right? The issue is, what do I do with the pain? Do I store it? Do I start building defenses against it? Every time I come across something that I like, do I try to hoard it? Do I try to protect it? That is the issue, not the pain itself. I have no control over whether or not the world will come up and manifest itself in a certain way. Right? I mean, if people are dying of pandemic today, I cannot say I'm a yogi, I don't feel any pain. That is complete nonsense. If I'm a yogi, if I'm into yoga, I have to experience the grief and the pain of people from a very sensitive, very deep space. And this ability to experience that pain from the deep space is the healing process that I can bring in. If I have become a stone, if I've become like a wall and I'm here, no pain, this, that, and the other, that is not yoga. That is deep defensiveness and a fear of encountering pain. So one of the critical things that you learn is how to experience pain without being afraid. How to experience pleasure without trying to grab it. How do I meet it when it's relevant and let it go? Right? And the way we create dukkha for ourselves, which is how do we create distorted spaces within us, is by building these kinds of mythical ideas of how to avoid pain. So if I'm afraid of a pain, I'm going to constantly worry inside, how do I build something inside me so that this pain doesn't happen? Pain will happen. So what do? I go back and I reinforce this defense. Or I run to some other teacher and say, okay, this teacher never taught me how to deal with pain. You teach me how to deal with pain, and go round and round and round. Yeah, so this is the direction that the Yoga Sutra talks about, is to go to a space of quietness and shantam, from where you don't avoid any experience, nor do you linger in any experience and hang on to it. That is the inner practice. So what did I learn? I learned how not to be afraid of whatever had happened to me. How not to be afraid of looking at my own reactivities to it.
That's very, very beautiful and eloquently put. And I hope
Your voice is getting lost, Karishma, every now and again. What do you say just now?
said, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. I said that was really beautifully put. And I think that what I said after that was reducing the symptoms of the stress of the pain rather than the pain itself reducing. Like the stress of the pain. Yeah, but I'm glad that it broke off at the right time, because then everyone understood that, like, there is no such thing as, oh, my life is going to be blissful and everything's going to be wonderful the minute I start doing yoga. I think that is not the point here. The point is everything's going to come. It's how we react to that and how we
Yeah,
manage.
how I can meet life.
Yes. And then next thing I said was, it's beautiful, because when I started this session in the beginning, we talked about application of yoga into our everyday life.
Hmm.
On the mat, off the mat, with every breath in mindfulness. And when you're talking about applying this Yoga Sutra, which is directly the way your teacher taught you to apply it directly in your life to you, is exactly the kind of experience that I think that people watching would like to have, because that is where the fruit, where the real sweet taste lingers, right? How do I take this text and apply it to myself, right? Can you share with us one yoga sutra, and what your experience has been with it, how you've journeyed with it, maybe a personal story or a story of a student, and how that changed their life?
Yeah, there are so many critical sutras. So let me just toss one of them up and see what it looks like, right? So let's take this Tapas Swadhyaya Ishvara Pranidhana.
Beautiful, yeah.
So that's the second chapter. It talks about practice and so on. Yeah. So the word tapas is an important word to look at because it's often misunderstood. It's translated into English as austerities. And your Amar Chitra Katha, and anytime it has to use the word tapas, it'll have somebody standing on one foot with his arms up and so on. Yeah. So it's one of those very distorted words. And of course, there is a lot of stuff that's coming out now by some researchers which seems to esoterize the idea of tapas. Yeah. Whereas the word tapas is really, if you go into the Upanishads and things like that, you'll see in every Upanishad, there's a young person who'll come and ask a question, and the master on the other side will say, go and meditate on it. And he'll use the word tapas for that. Yeah. So satapo tapyata, satapas taptva, whatever. So these words will be used fundamentally to say, go and really work with this. Right. So what is the meaning of tapas there? The way I'm looking at it and the way I understand the Upanishads specifically is that when you have a really deep question to ask, which is a very meaningful, important question, there's a huge tension in you to quickly go and grab an answer. Yeah, like for example, why is something happening to me, or something like that, or a question like, who am I? It's there all the time in people's minds. Now, when you take a question like this seriously and start examining that without running to any quick answers, right? Or why is this pain happening to me? You don't run immediately to blaming somebody, right? There's a certain tension that happens inside you. So being able to sit with that question without rushing for an answer either to somebody outside, fundamentally, you don't go to somebody else and ask what's the answer for this question. That's that's very important if you want to do yoga. So you sit with that question and examine that question. And there's a tension that will then come in because something inside you wishes to get an answer, thinking that the moment I've got an answer, I can dissolve this pain or dissolve this issue. Right. So the first thing you learn is to sit with this and not give in to these kind of pulls and pushes. And then you start being able to have insights into what is happening to you. So that's the Swadhyaya part. Right? I start understanding who am I, what have I internalized, and I'm sure Saras has talked about it. What are the vasanas and samskaras that have been left in me, and so on. So I start looking at it and I understand how I am creating contexts where I'm repeating behaviors, I'm repeating myself and reinforcing things which actually keep me in a state of dukkha. So, understanding this process by which I recreate myself over and over again, if I stay with that, then I start understanding not only how I recreate my identity and hang on to it, but also what is it in me that is beyond identity. Right? And you cannot get to that space beyond identity without understanding identity properly. There's no shortcut to it. So then you go into the next step, which is called Ishvara Pranidhana, right? Where you start understanding how to let go of this whole hankering for results and fruits and of actions and so on, and really learn how to trust life itself. Again, this is not an easy step because I am rewarded normally in life for creating defense mechanisms and acquisition mechanisms. Right? Today, the greatest heroes are not people who live a beautiful life. Greatest heroes are people who hoard things, people who hoard power, people who do all kinds of things, right? So these are all identity based ways of grasping the world and hanging on to it and creating power. Yeah. Whereas what we're talking about is to come to a stage when you don't have any of these defenses. You give up these defenses and you understand how you're recreating these defenses and therefore creating dukkha. So then you come to understanding Ishvara Pranidhana, which is a real trust in life itself. And when you start trusting life in that way, you can be calm, you can allow things to happen to you, and so on. So, my journey is this has been my journey. And if I have to give you the details of it, it'll take a long time. But yeah, because when I started, when I went to Desikachar and Krishna ji and all that, we had been through my family had completely, we were in a family business, and family had, my father had done things which created huge losses and issues of credibility and lots of things. So there's a huge uh, issue of real deep loss and all kinds of consequences of this whole thing, right? So rebuilding that context from there, owning up to the pain of it, owning up to the feeling of letdown and betrayal of people whom you trust, and all of that was entirely through yoga, right? And I think what was beautiful was the way both Desikachar and his father held me in this through this, because it was not an easy trip, right? And I think even in the introduction to my book, Learning Through Yoga, Deshkachar mentions that he thought I was a wild guy when I met him, or something like that. He said these are wild eyes or something. So, yeah, maybe, right. But uh, it's been a nice long journey. And now that it's kind of, I can look back and say, wow, thank God that I went down that road. But when I was starting that road, I wasn't saying that.
Which actually brings me to the next question. Being like, yes, so you've been able to sit with your state of mindfulness to whatever it is, your life journey, and you're slowly starting to unfold, understand who you are, why you are, your identity. And then you start to disengage from that identity to find something higher and to seek that higher power. But for everyone, listening, it may not be, it might sound so easy. You're literally summarizing, the last 40, 50 years of your life. And there must be so many obstacles that that must have come up. So what are the main obstacles that you find that deter people from being on this path? Because if we look at the Yoga Sutra, it's not such a complicated text to begin with.
Think so? Okay.
To begin with, because if you explained it to me now, one sutra, I can sort of understand it. It's the
Yeah.
practice of it,
Correct.
right? Which it's it can cause many obstacles. I can do a little dance of back and forth with it. I might run away altogether. There may be so many things that happen for me, right? So I'd like you to talk to people who are listening to you and me and share what obstacles might come up and what motivating factors you can sort of say these are the little things that make this journey worth it. So try and stick with the Yoga Sutra because it's going to work out in the end, sort of thing.
See, the first thing is that Ishvara is not something higher. Ishvara is inside me. He's there all the time. Okay, I think there's a very important starting point because it's not something distant that you're searching. It's something very close to you that you're searching. Right? And I heard a little bit of what Saras was saying, Smriti and Smaram and all that. We tend to forget for so many reasons that I'm part of a divine manifestation. May not look like this when you see me in the beginning, but yeah, something right, something deep inside all of us is Atman. Atman is divine. So inside me, it's inside me. It's not something far away. It's not something higher.
Actually, want to
Right.
reference the session with Mekhala and Jyotsna here, because that vibrational frequency that they were talking about in the chanting, and that many people had the pleasure of witnessing, is also that Atman frequency. It also the divine in us, feeling that sense of community, connection within ourselves and each other.
Correct. Trying to discover that resonance so that that Atman can reflect off us. Right. So it's inside and it's subtle and it's waiting for you. It'll be very happy if you say hello to it. You don't have to climb anywhere for it. Yeah. Now there are 2-3 problems, if you want to call it that, to a person taking up yoga sadhana. One is the popular understanding of yoga itself is an issue. So yoga has become equal to asana, yoga is equal to some studio practice, and then it's become very commercial, right? I was shocked to see something called beer yoga, yeah, and things like that. So in the name of innovation, the word yoga has got completely corrupted, right? So I think the first issue is for people to understand that all that is fine. Yeah, you do that, your figure might improve, your health will improve, and there are enough tests to say that your BP will come down, this, that, and the other. Right. So cosmetic yoga and this kind of yoga is fine, but there are also lots of myths built into yoga. Right, of this, like this fellow standing like this, and right, so many myths are built in. Right, what is not made clear is that it's an inner journey of uncovering yourself. Okay, so when you start uncovering yourself, like the whole story of Samudra Manthan, right? The first thing that will happen when you start doing Samudra Manthan is you'll have to deal with the Kalahala that comes out. Yeah. And then when you go past it, all kinds of amritas and all kinds of beautiful things come through. Right? So that is not so easy for people to own up to and say, hey man, I'm creating my dukkha. Right? Now, once you own up to this, that I'm creating my dukkha, then obviously the solution lies inside me. It cannot lie outside. So this switch, I think, is critical. So until the switch is made, you keep, jumping from here to there, or you look for this solution, or you look for that tip in this and that. None of this is an entry into the process of yoga sadhana. Right? Mostly, in my experience, once people have shifted into this space of saying, look, I'm creating my dukkha, I'm creating my world. Let me look at how I'm creating it, what I'm doing. Right? I see them persist. I see them search for the right teachers and stay on the path. Right? This is a critical realization because the current context militates against this. Okay, science tells you that, you know what, if you get a iPhone, your sorrows will be gone. If you have a whitening cream, everything will be fine. Right? So the world outside is constantly giving you these shortcuts and these solutions, and yoga gets placed in that. Right? And the whole idea of introspection has been thrown out of Western psychology. So, yeah, there's a lot of, the people who've talked about it, it has not been accepted in psychology. And yoga is all about introspection. And the reason is very simple. Who other than me can have insights into me? Who other than me can shift the way I behave and I respond to the world? Nobody else can. Right? So I think it's just a question of a person realizing these simple things, and they will stick to the path of yoga. These distractions they have to drop. Right? And my experience has been that once people start tasting the beauty of this inward journey, they never stop. It's not possible to stop it.
Anyone who's already started to feel that little taste, can you start putting some questions? We have about 5 minutes with Raghu left. You
Sure.
can ask any questions. And we've been asked to re-summarize Amrit, Halahal, and Samudra Manthan in English, if you don't mind, Raghu, while we wait for the questions.
If I don't mind, it's, yeah. Kalahala is just poison. How I'm hanging on to time and what happens, what poisons I create in my system by not understanding time properly. And I'm holding on to the past. So every time I say I shouldn't have yesterday's pain happening today, I'm hanging on to time and making something that is impermanent into permanent. So every time I do this, I create poison in the system.
Wow.
So that is the poison that you create by doing this. That is kalahala. Sometimes it's called hala, whatever, but that's the main, this thing of that is that. Right? What is the other word? Amrita.
Amritam? Yeah, Amrit.
Amritam is that which is beyond death, beyond all dualities, beyond conception, which is eternal, no beginning, no end. That is Amrita. And the sweetness of that, the life and the love and whatever that comes out of that eternal being is Amrita.
And Samudra Manthan.
And
Samudra
Samudra
Manthan.
Manthan. Samudra Manthan it's a whole big story. I think you should ask Google. Google will give you some 10 answers. Yeah, it is the fundamental story of India. If you go to any temple, any big temple, you'll see the Samudra Manthan sculpted in a panel somewhere or the other for sure. So the Samudra Manthan is this whole story of looking at oneself, looking at the struggle between the different types of minds, the kind of mind that creates dukkha, the kind of mind that doesn't create dukkha. So the asuric mind and the daivic mind. And the whole process of churning. So it's called the churning of the ocean. So when you do this churning, yeah, you go inward, look at yourself, you go out, you act, you come back, look at yourself. right? So through this movement, you discover who you are, right? So this whole process is beautifully illustrated in a story called Samudra Manthan. And
Thank you so
almost
much.
all Indian stories are Samudra Manthan. Mahabharata is a Samudra Manthan. It starts with Samudra Manthan. Almost all stories follow this as the basic motive.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Raghu. Also, what Raghu is saying to everyone who's listening is you are divine. It's inside of you. So access that divinity and come alive to that. And once you start accepting that divinity, finding that divinity within yourself, then you will find slowly the reaps of understanding the how to apply the yoga sutra in your mind, and then you'll slowly start to reaping the rewards that you put in, and then you can't stop. So this is not for some extra terrestrial, extra motivated, extra individual. It's just for any human being, and it is the
Who's interested in
misunderstanding of
ending dukkha?
who's
Karishma, it's
interested in
for
dukkha,
any human being interested in ending dukkha.
which is every
That's the
human being.
caveat.
Yeah.
Pardon?
Also, I said it is every human being, but also I think that a lot of human beings, like you're saying, don't understand what the essence of yoga is. So if you're listening to this, please understand exactly the purity of what yoga has for you, what it's talking about in terms of the mind, in terms of your well-being, in terms of your inner work. It is not just about asana. I think that for the last 3 hours that we spent together, we've literally uh, brought to you the essence of what yoga is, and shown you that yoga is well beyond just that asana practice, beyond the yoga sweatpants and that little mat that you can carry around, right? Which is effective, it's beautiful, but it's beyond that. So let's take that heart and soul of yoga into us. We're going to just all, if Mekhala and Jyotsna can join us, Saras is with us, if you can unmute. If Raghu, you can lead us through a little prayer to honor Desikachar sir, who's been the teacher to all of you, and indirectly through the lineage to me also in some way, and to everyone who's participating. I feel like we are honored to be here because people like Krishnamacharya, people like Desikachar have dedicated their lives to make us reduce our suffering just a little bit more. And I think it's well worth us just taking a moment to acknowledge them on International Yoga Day, and also bringing alive the flame of his
And
work.
Deshikachar's birthday, Karishma.
Yes,
For,
and
I think for Saras, and I'm sure for Mekhala and Jyotsna, today is not important because it's some International Yoga Day. Today is important because it's Deshikachar's birthday. என்ன மேக்கலா சொல்லமா ரொம்ப
Yeah,
நாள்
sure.
ஆச்சுமா உன்னை பார்த்து.
Hello, எப்படி இருக்கீங்க?
நல்லா இருக்கிறேன்.
Jyotsna, if it's possible, could you please put your camera on? Maybe Raghu, you can lead us through any sort of little thing to summarize to everyone who's sorry, just as we just tune in, everyone who's watching, we're going to end with what Raghu says, but we will be back at 2:30 in the morning India time and 4:30 Canada time. You have to figure out all the other time zones in between. We will be sending out reminders. We will be talking about why yoga is applicable on an everyday basis, not just through asana, but through chanting, through understanding the nature of the mind, through chair yoga, through yoga nidra, to heartfulness meditation, through parenting. It's all relevant, it's all applicable, and you and I can do it. That's the key here. It's accessible to every single person. And I hope that you all bear witness to that in the days to come. And see you all in the evening.
Ma, what do we chant? Patram karne chant பண்ணிடலாமா? Mekhala is the champion of chanting, yeah.
ஐயோ.
Mekhala, sorry. Maybe you can chant what you wanted to do, the earlier, but you had to cut short because of time.
Yeah, I'd love to hear Mekhala rather than myself.
And Mekhala, the camera, we can't see you so well. If you could.
I totally agree. I'd love to hear Mekhala.
So we'll all mute ourselves and give you the floor, Mekhala.
All right. I think I will just end with a chanting that was requesting for peace for everything within us and outside of us.
I want to thank everyone who's watching, who's taken the time to be aware of yourself, to take this inner journey, to probably continue on the journey of yoga. We will send you all the contact details and websites of the panelists here today. So whoever you resonated with and vibrated with, you can connect with them. Or maybe there's someone else out there for you, but at least you know what the offerings are that are out there for you. We're waiting for Mekhala to just adjust the camera so we can see you properly as you slowly.
It's still dark a little bit, so I think you're not able to see me because of that. All right, I will finish with the Shanti Pata, like a peace for everything within us, outside of us, including all animals. Om Prithvi Shanta Sagnina Shanta Same Shanta Shuchagum Shamayatu Antarikshagum Shantan Tadvayuna Shantan Tanme Shantagum Shuchagum Shamayatu Prithvi Shantirantarikshagum Shantir Dhyau Shantir Dishashantiravantara Disha Shantiragni Shantir Vayu Shantiraditya Shantish-chandrama Shantir-nakshatrani Shantirapashantiroshadhaya Shantir Vanaspataya Shantir Gau Shantiraja Shantirashva Shantir Purusha Shantir Brahma Shantir Brahmana Shanti Shantireva Shantir Me Astu Shantihi Tayaha Gung Shantya Sarva Shantya Mahyan Dvipade Chatushpade Cha Shantim Karomi Shantir Me Astu Shantihi.
Thank you, Mekhala. That was lovely.
Thank you.
I thank each and every one of you on behalf of the Great India Festival and Soulkatha for taking the time to be here, for spreading light, for spreading wisdom, and for dedicating your life to something that really matters, elevating suffering and bringing people closer to themselves. I think that we end with a continued intention to spread this word to every single person who's here. I thank each and every one of you for being here, for participating, for listening, for taking the time in our busy, busy lives to change something deep within yourself. And I hope that this is the beginning of many, many gatherings for the Canada in Yoga movement, which has been initiated by the Great India Festival, as well as Soulkatha, because we're all about positive movement and change here. So I, with great and immense gratitude for all of you for being here, for teaching us so much. And for me personally, this has been a great space of learning. And I think that I'm with everyone who's been listening to say that the four of you have really, really added great value to, to our lives.
Appreciate your endeavor,
And I must
Karishma. I was
thank
very
you,
happy to be
Karishma.
here.
Thank you.
I think you've done a lovely job of interviewing, and yeah, very
Thank you.
nice. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you so much. Thank you. If there's anything that you'd like to say, any final thoughts, we're happy to hear it.
Shantireva Shantihi. Shantir me astu Shantihi.
And
Thank you.
my teacher always said Shanti. He gave the definition of Shanti, as Jyotsna Aunty was telling me, is not to get provoked. One of the other meaning of Shanti can also be interpreted as not just peace, but also not to get provoked.
நம்ம பெரியவர் என்ன சொல்றாரு தெரியுமா? Shanti, he says, is the veena completely tuned, waiting for the right sounds to emanate, and then going back into silence.
Beautiful.
I think there's no sweeter note to end this session. Pause this session, I think. I hope your words and your vibrations carry on people who've attended. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karishma.